Hi, everyone. How are you? I hope you're all well. I saw this the other day and I can't stop thinking about it. I want to share this with you. This is the dash cam of the story of Jane Priebe, who is an absolute hero, as is her neighbor. And you're going to find out why both of them are very lucky to be alive today. Eh, it's such an amazing story. When I saw this, I looked all over and I couldn't find good information. Of course, it's because this story started in Vegas, and as the story goes, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But we all know that's not true because how many people came home with a bad case of clap and found out that what happened in Vegas didn't exactly stay in Vegas? Well, I lived in Vegas, so I kind of know why. They don't want to have anything that would ever negatively affect tourism coming out. In fact, if reporters do report on something that has happened there, because things do happen there that are terrible, but they don't want it to be that way. They don't want anybody to know. So finding out the true story on anything takes work. And so I used a combination of articles and went deep down a rabbit hole over these past couple of days since I saw this and put the information together. Now, 6 years ago, our world was a little bit different and not as familiar with terms that are not insulting as it pertains to gender. And so I will be changing the updated language that was quoted. If you go and you find the article, you will see maybe what I was talking about and how I kind of needed to change things so that it shows that in 6 years we've done a better job of understanding more about gender differences and how to not insult somebody who is not well not what you would expect based on their name, perhaps. You'll see. So without further ado, here we go. And if you like my channel, please like and subscribe. I do kinds of all deep dives of all kinds, and I have a variety of videos, kind of something for everybody. And I love requests. So if there's ever something that you see and you want somebody to go deep down the rabbit hole, oh, I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll give you all kinds of backstory. That's why they call me Backstory Tabby, believe it or not. So here we are, and we're going to start this. The way I saw this is I was absolutely shocked the first time I saw it. I stopped it a few times in, and I had so many questions, and I'm yelling back and forth at the screen. I'm like, what? Why isn't anybody doing anything? Ah. So I'm going to kind of interrupt the cam to kind of introduce the players here and give you a better overall situation, because you may have just came from watching this video too and go, what in the world, how, why, ugh, ugh. Okay, kind of like I was. And if you are stumbling upon my page first and you're finding this, you might want to watch this video, which will of course be linked in the description, and you might want to watch it straight through and see how everything went through. So right now we're at point of view here. We're in a law enforcement vehicle just cruising down the road. Doesn't look like anything too exciting, in a very, very, very quiet town here in Espanola, New Mexico is what they called it. And to be more specific, we are heading down towards a gas station. We're going to find a gas station pretty quick. Actually, one of them called it Espanol, and then one says it's more near San Pedro. So we're heading towards a Shell gas station on US Highway 84. So that kind of gives you your perspective. Here we are heading down US Highway 84, going to the Shell gas station. We're the cop looking at this, and we know what's going to happen to this van ahead. We have a pretty good idea of who's in there. So we're going to be, here we are in our ride along. Let's go. Here we are. Okay, cruising. This officer's adrenaline was probably just hopping. Here we go. We're just driving. Oh, putting on his brakes. Why did the driver put on his brakes? Why would he put on his brakes? Just because an officer coming the opposite way put on his lights? Oh, well, let's see here. Let's see what's going on with this vehicle here. There we go. So now you got behind and beside. There you go. Cherries and berries all over. And the driver pulls right over, which, knowing the circumstance, as we will find out, is surprising to me, and I think surprising to them all. So here we are. Driver pulls over to the right. That date was wrong. That just pulled up as January something. We are actually, oh yeah, we are actually, when I was looking at some of the articles, it was saying February 10th, and that's because that's when the charges went. So yes, indeed, it was January 30th. So it started January 30th, 2017, as we're talking about how so much has changed in 6 years. And this is an event that was in the making. Well, you'll find out. But this is a 12-hour ordeal that's about to come down real fast. So here we are. Driver's going to come out in just a second. You're going to meet him.
Hey, D-Hill, get on your PA. D-Hill, get on your PA. Call him up. D-Hill, get up.
Driver, put the hands out the window.
Passenger.
The outside. Open the door to the outside, driver.
There is a passenger. There is a passenger.
Driver, put your hands out the window. Open the door to the outside. Turn the other way. Turn around. Turn around. Walk backwards to the side of my boy. Slowly.
Who do we have here? Who do we have? Jack William Morgan. He likes to be called Wolf or Merc Ivar. Don't ask me why. He's 31 years old. Pops out of Arlington, Texas. You're going to meet this character in just a second. Come on, Merc Ivar.
Hands up. Keep going back.
Wolf. Jack William Morgan. Last free walk you'll ever have. Keep those hands in the air, buddy.
Hey, keep them up. Keep them coming back. Keep them coming back. There's a passenger.
Keep them up.
There's a passenger, 48.
There's a passenger. Okay.
Go ahead. Go.
Now, and I was wondering, why are they calling out that there's a passenger? What's going on here? So we're going to find out in just a second. As Jack goes ahead and sits himself down. He's dressed kind of like he is a military man. I couldn't find anything that confirmed or did not confirm if he had ever been in the military, but I do believe that based on the haircut, the way he conducts himself, I would imagine that he was in the military. I really tried hard to find anything about him, and it's really like he didn't exist, other than the nicknames Wolf and Merc Ivar. Guess Jack William just didn't have that ring when you want to be called Merc or Wolf. All right, here we go. Back here, here we go.
Hands up, passenger! Get on the ground, passenger! All the way! Yeah, I got passenger. 20. You got him?
Now, it seemed to me that passenger said something. I didn't quite hear it. Did you hear it? Let me go back just a little. Let's see if passenger said something.
Away! Yeah, I got passenger. 20. You got him?
Passenger says something. I still didn't get it, but I couldn't catch it. Let's keep listening.
Hey, watch your crossfire. Is there anyone else in there?
Yes, there's one person.
Watch it. There's movement.
Okay, what you're hearing right now is a combination of things. So we're going to listen again. Passenger on the ground says she's in there. And then you're hearing the blood-curdling screams and cries of someone saying, help me, help me. It's listen to the two things going spontaneously because it matters.
Crossfire. Is there anyone else in there?
Yes.
Okay, so passenger on the ground is one Samuel Lee Brown, 19, out of Phoenix City, Alabama. Samuel Lee Brown prefers to be called Sophie. Sophie is transgender, and there are alternating terminologies for Sophie's relationship with Jack. In the article, it says Jack and Sophie were boyfriend-girlfriend or boyfriend-boyfriend. And that was across the board both ways. As she likes to be called, Sophie, we will say she from this point forward, and we will say girlfriend. So Samuel Lee Brown, age 19 right here, otherwise known as Sophie, and here we go. Now, the cries that we're hearing and whatnot are from Jane. We're going to see Jane in just a minute. Now, it is important to note that when Sophie was laying on the ground, Sophie was right away cooperative, as we saw, and said, she is in there. She is in there. So that was noted that Sophie did. Sophie was cooperative, and we'll see how.
There's one person.
Watch it. There's movement. Don't move. Don't you move. Stay down.
Yes, sir. She's in there.
Don't you move. Help her. Just make sure. Yeah, go ahead. Clear the rest of the car.
She has no.
So I'm hearing this, and I'm watching this, and I'm hearing somebody crying and yelling, and I'm going, why aren't they getting her out? And one by one, you'll see the officers come up and look and walk away. Watch.
Just make sure. Yeah, go ahead. Clear the rest of the car.
She has no. Yes, sir.
735. That's roll to 55, 33. 55, 33. Don't stop. Anything you got?
In the articles, it said that they were confused here with Sophie, as they said that Sophie was apprehended wearing a dress. I don't see that as a dress. I do see that as a top and jeans. There was a lot of really confusing and contradictory things. And as I said, the reporting of a story that comes out of Las Vegas is always lacking because, like I said, they're just really not free to speak freely.
Take a seat. Okay.
Okay, so now we're going to get a second point of view here with the different dash cam. These dash cams are dash and body cams are all merged very nicely in this. And this was all done just seamlessly by the police network. And I am so gracious to this channel for the stories that they cover and the way that they put these things together. So you do get the point of view simultaneously. The editing is just on point. So thank you so much to the channel Police Activity. And so here we go here. We're going to get another view of Jack William Morgan, or Wolf, or Merk Ivar. out of Arlington, Texas. We're going to get that other view of him as he was walking back, and we're going to see how that state patroller is doing exactly as he should. He's using that door right there to cover his body and protect himself, so that if by chance Wolf Merc Ivar Jack William Morgan 31 has a weapon or otherwise on him and he wants to try something, knowing that this is his last few minutes of freedom for the rest of his life, the state policeman is being very, very safe. They're being very safe. They've got officers all around. They're doing everything really slow and meticulously, keeping everybody safe. So they're keeping his hands in the air, hands in the air. He's being cooperative, backing it up, backing it up. As we saw, he sat down where he thought the command was there by one officer. The other officer wanted him closer. So they're not approaching him in any way until he's close enough to grab, so that if he did have a weapon, they would be able to take position to overpower him or take measures to make sure he could not do anything. Gets what I mean? And everything was just so well done by the state policemen. It's just fascinating to watch what good work they do.
Hands up! Hands up! Slowly. Stop right there. Stop right there. Stop right there. On the ground, passenger! Turn around! Stop! Get out!
And now the thing that Jack has, and Jack has his hands up. Like I say, I do believe that he's military. He's got those combat boots on, the camo fatigues, a shirt, and those suspenders. Now, he has been living homeless, and I'll get into that too. He's been living homeless, but yet he's still, dressed like he's in the military. So I assume that there's some military background. I think he probably got exited from the military, if you will, because he's got a couple screws loose. He's cooperative in showing those hands. Whenever you get pulled over, my husband and I, we're coming back from, small city, and, my husband had to pee really bad, so he was going a little faster than he should have, maybe. And, we've been married for, over 20 years, and we've never gotten pulled over together. So to watch the way that my husband behaved was really interesting, because I just break down and cry. I'm not good at getting pulled over. I'm just like, oh, I'm sorry. What did I do? So they're like, your lights aren't on, or, I've only had one speeding ticket. I'm pretty boring. So my husband did the same thing here. Even though he just got pulled over, my husband kept his hands up, hands visible. Now my husband is retired military, so maybe it's a thing where they really, learn that. But just if I can give one piece of advice that you take from this and take forward and tell everybody these situations are always tense. Even if they're just pulling you over for speeding, they don't know if you are going to grab for a weapon and end their life. Every single interaction has to be viewed that way. So if you put your hands up and hands visible, you lessen the tension right away. And that really helps things. And so you want to be cooperative, and you want to have those hands showing. And Jack is doing that there because he basically knows he's done. He is done. So keeping those hands up.
On your knees. Keep your hands up.
Following commands, he's barefoot. I thought he had boots on. He's barefoot. Wow. Why are you barefoot? Jack? Wolf? Mark Ivar?
I got him.
And they're up there talking to Sophie. Sophie's a little skittish with her movements. She moves around a lot. So she's not as cool and controlled as
Vehicle clear.
Jack is.
Where's the key at?
It's in the ignition.
To the chains.
In the ignition.
Okay, we're going to listen to this again because it's important.
Where's the key at?
It's
To the chains.
In the ignition.
Oh. Well, let's talk about that in just a moment. Did you hear what that said? What he said? Officer comes up and says, "Where's the keys?" He's like, "Huh? Where's the keys?" "In the ignition." He's like, "To the chains." "In the ignition, on the keys." I'm like, well, no. I don't like this. I don't like this Jack. I don't like him. I don't like Jack at all.
That's my wallet in this room.
I know. I saw it.
Sophie's being walked over there. Jack's trying to kind of look over at Sophie. Sophie's being patted down for weapons. Jack's being taken into the vehicle. Sophie's being taken into a different vehicle.
Okay. Oh, never mind.
Vehicle's clear. Vehicle's clear.
Yeah. Put a camera on this thing.
Got a camera. You need a...
Okay. Now, if you have not watched this video, this is your first time, there's a sensitivity issue here. I'm going to tell you Jane is alive. There's a situation here, though, and if you want to walk away and just hear the rest of the story, that's fine. Jane's a survivor. Jane's a fighter. And I just want to say that right before, and you're going to see, and you're going to be so proud of this girl by the time the story is done. This girl's amazing. Now, the reason why they kept coming up and then walking away is because they needed a camera. They wanted to take some pictures of the way that they found her, probably for the upcoming trial. Let's go.
Oh my God, thank you.
Okay. Got it? Rolling?
Okay, it's rolling.
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna get you out of here, okay? We're gonna get you out of here.
Do you need me to say anything about what happened or anything?
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Just hold on for now, okay?
Just hold on,
We're gonna
okay?
get some pictures, then we're gonna get you out, okay, man?
Sarge, I'm going to take some pictures. We have the evidence. She's tight, chained down by the neck.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay?
Yeah, make sure we get photographs to it.
Yeah, that's what I want to do. I don't want to... And she understands what I'm going to do.
Okay.
But she's cool with it.
Okay, no, let's
Okay,
do what we
let's
need.
back him up. Let's go
Please
inside.
lock them up.
Just calm down. Calm down. Go ahead, bro. Go ahead, do it.
Yes.
I know. Go ahead, close it up. That's the best way to do it. You okay, sweetie?
Now she's coughing, which is also something we're going to talk about. Note how many times she coughs. We'll talk about that.
Make sure I'm still unsafe. I don't think I took it off, but I always double check.
I didn't know if to text you guys or not. You just like...
We have an ambulance coming, okay? We're gonna get you out of this.
Okay, ready?
Yeah, they're out of
Give me
this.
some light. Let me see if I can get...
Yes, sir. Some light there.
We're getting you out of here, okay? For her. She's literally chained up inside.
She's literally chained up inside, is what he said.
He said it was the key. I got a cup key if you need one.
Got enough light there?
Get some photographs of the stuff before you get them. I got photographs of her.
Dude, I don't know. There's another one out there somewhere. Okay, got it.
Take pictures of all this before we get the chains on.
Fucking weird.
I got pictures of her and I got pictures of the chains.
Don't there's all the weird stuff that everyone's sections of. Fuck.
Come on.
Okay, go
Can you
ahead.
come this way? Come, hold on to it. Hold on to it. Okay.
Got another hand, okay?
Got it? Hold on, sweetie. Hold on, we got you. Yeah, you check them, though? Okay.
He had
So
me earlier and I got him to take him.
this poor sweet girl, Jane. Jane Priebe was 28 years old on this day, so she must be 34 now, and I hope that she's had a lot of interventional counseling. I hope the life has been amazing to her. I hope that she's doing the best that she can with the trauma counseling, and that she's got two beautiful babies, a boy and a girl, a match set, and living somewhere peacefully and happily. That's what my hope's for. My hopes are for everything good and happy to happen for Jane. I don't know. I was not able to find anything on where Jane is, or if she's really talked about her story much. But this is Jane, and we're going to meet her here. And as you can see, these chains were around her neck. Her hands were handcuffed, and the chain around her neck had her hands up, and her hands were crossed over and across her body. And these chains were actually then looped around the wheel wells of the van. So that van, he must have modified it so that it went just straight through. So there was no way she could get out. The chains were literally connected to the car, the wheel wells. So they went through the wheel wells up into the inside of the van. And as you saw, his little smart ass, when they asked him where the keys were, he's like, oh, in the ignition. Well, all the keys here, because getting her unlocked was their primary concern. They wanted to free her as soon as they could. You can tell that they're being very calm, although they're as shocked as can be. The first time I watched this, I was really wondering why they weren't saying anything. She's like, do I need to tell you anything? And they're like, yeah. And then I really needed to take a step back and realize that they were just letting her kind of, be very calm, and letting her kind of, reacclimate to, there's a bunch of men who are protecting you, who are not going to let anything happen to you, and your captor is somewhere else, and she's safe. But none of them are verbalizing that. And I think that these men have never seen anything like this, and I think quite honestly, they're a little bit in shock as well. You just watch their body language. It's really, really interesting.
You got the cuff key for it? It looks like those are
There's
just
that one
standard
here.
cuffs.
Okay, hold this one. Got it. Sophie, here you got one. Okay, now I want to look on the net.
Okay, so what she said twice is, she said, "How'd you guys find me? How'd you guys find me?" I wasn't sure why they weren't answering her. As she continued to cough, I realized she probably had more damage to her vocal cords than anybody knew at that point. After a strangulation, you can end up coughing a lot. You can have a hoarse voice, a sore throat. The tissues inside are bruised. You can have you can die weeks later from a strangulation. So it's important to always get medical treatment if you have been strangled. If it is the result of a domestic violence incident, please call 1-800-799-SAFE as soon as you are safe. In this instance, she's going to get medical help, as we know, but I think that they didn't hear her. I think the cams picked it up, but I don't think they heard her. I think that with all of the noises out there and the chaos, and probably their own heartbeats beating in their ears, they didn't hear her. Because I was like, why aren't you answering her? Why aren't you hugging her? Why aren't you grabbing her and telling her everything's going to be okay? And then it's like, no, they're in shock. She's in shock. Everybody's adrenaline's going. They're just trying to get her to a safe place where she's safe and warm. Really fascinating. Really fascinating.
Okay.
Hey, Sergeant. Sergeant.
Why don't you walk over there to the front of the unit and take all that?
Look at this guy right here. Look at the look on his face. He looks absolutely mortified. This young law enforcement officer will likely never see anything like this in his career. Hopefully not. The look in his eyes, he's shocked. I wanted to reach through this screen and hug this girl and never let her go. My emotions were, like I say, I've spent the last 2 days trying to find out exactly what happened here. Are you guys feeling the same way? Are you feeling like you want to hug her and tell her everything's okay, and aren't you halfway wondering why they aren't? Are you guys kind of reacting in the same way that I did when I saw it at first?
That stuff off in the camera.
I'm rolling.
Huh?
I'm rolling.
Oh, okay, you got one.
You got one rolling, sir.
That's the damage from the strangling.
He choked me out
Sarge.
like 6 times.
I don't got a key for this one, guys. Sarge, I don't got a key for the net.
She just said, and she'll say it again, that he choked her out 6 times. And when she says choked her out unconscious. This was also witnessed, and we'll talk about that later. But that's what she did say, and it is confirmed. So that big man choked out this little lady at least 6 times, and other things we'll talk about. But for the purposes of discussion, we'll keep going and just kind of note how much she's coughing, and note that that's the kind of damage, that's the kind of thing that you hear after somebody has been strangled.
Neck one.
Okay.
There it is. Here it is. Okay, hold on. Give me time. There you go.
There, she's free. There you go. His face, he was looking down. He's just trying to, he's trying to be very calm and calmly get those, he calmly unlocked each and every one. And like I say, he's like, what keys? Yeah, all the keys to this, you Jack, William, Morgan, Wolf, Merc, Ebar. No. He boils my blood.
I was in Las Vegas. He broke into my Las Vegas apartment and stole me from my home.
Las Vegas, New Mexico?
Nevada.
Nevada?
He fucking hauled ass.
Do you know the guy?
Yeah, he's my ex-boyfriend. How did you know?
They called us and told us.
Who did?
I was up at the office trying to run him, see if we had anything on him.
Oh my God.
This is all going to make sense in just a little bit, because they're all going, we got a call, because she's now 3 states over. She's been in a living hell for 12 hours. This is the end of a 12-hour ordeal that probably felt to her like 99 and a half years. And thank goodness to good police work and an incredible neighbor and the strength of Jane that all of this came together, and she's alive. She is alive. She is a fighter. She's alive. She did everything she could. She did everything right. You're going to train your girls to do everything that Jane Priebe did, because Jane Priebe is a badass. And I'm saying her name, and it is Priebe. Jane, Priebe, and she's 28 at the time. And as she stated, she dated Jack in college for a little while. I'll give you the rest of the backstory. Here we go, more on here.
Your guys' is yours.
More coughing from that strangulation.
Sorry.
Sorry. Were you able to get a hold of somebody to tell them where you were at, or
No.
no?
He dragged me out of the place, and I fought so fucking hard because I was like, this is how you die. And I think a neighbor saw me getting dragged out. Mm-hmm. He choked me out like 6 times because I...
Yes, indeed. The neighbor did watch. So, the neighbor she's talking about, we'll call him by his nickname right now of Sky, and we'll talk about Sky in just a little bit.
I kept fighting so hard.
Okay, did you lose consciousness when he was choking you?
Yes, like 6... He choked me out 6 times.
Okay.
You guys want to pull one of your units up here and put her in it?
That's all I was just gonna see if that's all right with you guys. I don't know whose it is, so.
I wear glasses, and they're fucking wrecked on the floor of my apartment.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull my unit up. I'm gonna put her in the back so she can stay.
We have an ambulance on the way to check you out, okay?
This is the part where I freaked out. This is the part where I was like, why is nobody hugging her? Why is nobody doing this? And I had to, run down and show my husband this and be like, why are none of these officers, like, why are they not like putting their coat on her? Why are they not hugging her? Why are they not doing anything? And he's like, if somebody put their arms out at this point, it could freak her out and put her back into, almost like a caged animal. Like right now, they're letting her just acquiesce. They're letting her feel her arms being able to move again because they've been chained up. They're just letting her breathe. Anything they would have done could have triggered something terrible, and they're just trying to keep everything safe. And so I have to look at it through those eyes and not look at it through what I would have done as a mama, because even if I would have been watching this across the street or whatever, I'd be holding this girl. And Jane Priebe, if you were out there, let me tell you, I am hugging you through the screen. I am hugging you. I hate that you were alone in this moment. I hate what happened to you. You were such a strong, badass girl. And I'm sorry that you weren't hugged and held right here, but knowing that probably everybody had really good training in how to keep you safe and calm was more important than the urge to comfort you.
Yeah, Mike, we have the female. You can go ahead and let him know that she's safe. We got her.
You guys need my information?
Yeah, I do. Do you know your social?
Yep.
Oh, but you're from Nevada?
Las Vegas.
Las Vegas, Nevada?
Nevada, yeah.
Let me qualify this when you clear on our name and date of birth. Nevada. What's your first name?
Jane.
First name Jane. Last name?
Priebe.
God, I'm serving.
Okay, you want to have a seat in here, warm up? All right.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, I got the heater cranked up too, so let me know if you need anything, okay?
Now, I'm surprised they shut that door, given kind of the concerns of making her feel claustrophobic. I'm surprised they didn't keep the door open where they could, but maybe, I don't know. Just so much, and so much happens so fast, I think, is what's really going on.
Go ahead and step up, okay? Not trying. Let you guys your thing.
So now she gets into the ambulance.
She was kidnapped from Las Vegas, Nevada. She was shackled inside of the vehicle. So.
You guys want me to have them watch them over to open this up?
We're gonna put these on you, okay, for my safety.
Okay, so Jane's in there, and those angels in the ambulance, they look too. They had that look, and they were like, "Yeah, nothing's gonna happen bad to her. We got her." I mean, they're all looking at each other like, "What in the hell?" And okay, and here you are. Here's the monster. Here's the monster under your bed. He doesn't look scary at all, does he? We are taught to believe that monsters look like monsters. We are taught to believe that they have horns coming out of their head, purple hair, and everything, but no. Monsters look like Ted Bundy, and monsters look like Jack William Morgan, aka Wolf, Merc, Ivar. This is a monster. This is your worst nightmare.
In yours, okay? Okay. You want to rip those two out? Those are the toe sheets.
Let me see.
Just want to sit there and look at himself getting cuffed and make sure they do it right.
How's the fish coming back?
That's just about the 3 days. If he could sign and print on both of those, that way
Yawning? Yeah, it's a long day for you, huh? Monster.
appreciate that, man. That was a good effort. Well, I'm glad you guys good looking out, man. Good looking out. Major props.
Yawning. I guess that is pretty exhausting, going and choking out a woman 6 times and every other thing that you did. Yeah, he's real tired. He's real tired because what he did, this monster, well, started out probably as any normal morning for Jane. Not for him. He had a mission. He had a mission that he'd been planning for a year and a half with his girlfriend in some language, or boyfriend, Sophie. They had been planning this for a year and a half together. Jack had met Jane in college, as she stated, and they had since broken it. They broke it off a while back. They reconnected, and that's the kiss of death. He had the plan. She didn't know the plan. She's just living her life. She's living in an apartment on Decatur Boulevard in Flamingo. So, you know, when you live in Vegas, you know those streets. So think about Decatur Boulevard and Flamingo. You know where those apartments are. There's a ton of them right there. And so he comes up to the door, however he does, 12 hours earlier, and goes in to get her with his girlfriend, Sophie. So the two of them, however they gained entrance, I cannot find. I can't find how he got into her house because there's nothing I can find. She kicked, screamed, bite, bit, hit, kicked, tried to bite off his finger. She fought and fought and fought more than she ever thought she could. As she said, she knew that if you get taken to a second place, you're not going to make it. You have to put up the fight of your life if you're ever getting taken to a second place, because you are in the fight of your life. You are absolutely in the fight of your life. You do everything you can. You grab onto everything. You scream, bite, kick, do what Jane did. Jane did everything right. And so she was choked out 6 times, as stated. A neighbor named Zomeng Lee, otherwise known as Sky. The name is spelled Xiaomeng. I don't know if I say it right when I'm saying Zhaomeng, and I'm sorry if I don't. I did my best, and the last name is Li. So Xiaomengli. Sky is an absolute hero. He's 33. He looked out his window, heard the commotion, and saw Jane in only her undergarments being dragged down 3 flights of stairs. And she's holding on to every stair. She's kicking, screaming, fighting, doing everything she can. But you've got Jack and Sophie. Sophie's just running around there being helpful, as you saw. You know, Sophie wants to be just kind of giddy there and helping, kind of, you know, moving all around like a little giddy squirrel. And that's kind of the role that Sophie played. It's just the helpful Sophie. And so you've got 2 of them against her, and she's putting up a really good fight. Like I say, Jane, if you ever watch this, watch how you made this monster yawn. He's exhausted. He never thought you had that in you, but you did, and you showed it. And at one point, when he tried to put a gag in her mouth, she tried to bite off his finger, like straight up tried to bite it off. So Sky Lee, 33, looking out the window, sees her getting dragged down, and he described Jack. So Sky described Jack as a 30 to 40-year-old male with dirty blonde, short hair, mustache stubble, and dragging Jane, who is, as he described, a tall, white, blonde, athletic-looking female who was handcuffed with a chain securing her legs. He tried to hog-tie her, and she kept fighting her way out of it to the point where he had to give up, which I think is hilarious. She fought and fought. So ultimately, though, he did get her bound and gagged. She tried to flail her arms. She was flailing her arms. She did everything. Choked out 6 times. 6 times that she remembers. 6 times. Could you imagine that terror? When you are choked, you can lose your life in a matter of, well, it'll feel like seconds because you'd be unconscious, but you can lose your life in a matter of minutes. It's the most lethal forms of domestic violence. It's the most lethal forms of violence across the board. It can cause, well, it can cause you, I don't know how to say it. It can cause you to lose control of your bodily function. So you may urinate. That happens. The body does all of that. So most likely that happened. And that's very normal. So don't be embarrassed if it happens during an attack. Get help. Get help because they need to be able to examine you thoroughly, and they need to make sure that your carotid arteries are okay, that you're not bleeding internally. They need to check you out. So please, if you've been in a situation, and just go and get checked out. Go to the ER. Call the domestic violence hotline. In this situation, we know that Jane was going straight to the hospital, and they most likely did all of that there. Probably gave her an ultrasound of her neck and tissues, and she ended up having bruises and cuts all over her, on her face, arms, neck, everywhere. Basically, in the attack, he used a whole roll of duct tape, trying to tape her up and duct tape her. He thought that he'd just be able to go in there, wrap her all up like that and take her. And she had another thing in mind, and that was not going with Crazy Jack Wolf. He gave up. And so later it is said that he was going to cut off all of her hair because the duct tape wasn't working because she was fighting so hard. So he was going to cut off her hair, and Sophie didn't let Jack cut Jane's hair. Sophie removed the duct tape with rubbing alcohol. Always the eager helper there, Sophie, just wanting to be the assistant. Now, the neighbor watched this in probable terror. That call that the neighbor did made all of this happen, because this is a 12-hour in the making stop. The neighbor called 911, was able to quickly pull out their phone and take a quick pic, which got a partial plate, a partial Texas plate, and they were able to see, make and model of the vehicle, a partial Texas plate. And the comments in the thread are like, why didn't the neighbor come and stop? Why didn't the neighbor? Because the neighbor would not be alive. If he was that determined to do what he was doing, and he was, Sky would have been collateral damage. Jack wouldn't have thought twice about unaliving anybody else who tried to stop him from his goal. There are countless stories, and they're all in the comments of this thread. Not all of them, but several stories of people who were trying to do the right thing, that we're being the good Samaritan, that we're out there trying to stop something terrible from happening, where they instead became the victim. Had Sky not have remained the witness and not letting Jack know anybody saw him get away with this, the neighbor wouldn't have been there. And Jane most likely wouldn't have been found to this day. His neighbor did the absolute right thing, and you, if you're ever in that position, do the right thing too. Do not try to get involved. Do not try to stop. The best and most important thing you can do is be a credible witness, because with what this neighbor did, made this happen, and we'll go into that next. We'll go right here and we'll watch this fascinating part next after his yawning because he's so exhausted from being a crazy, crazed, kidnapping psycho.
Hey, no, good battle, man. I appreciate that, brother. Myself, 752, going to be 56 to EPD with these two 10-12 with us.
Well, once again, he is yawning. You know, he finds this whole thing just so very boring. Maybe he'll take a nap through it. What the hell? Why is he yawning? What is this yawning? I couldn't believe it. Can you believe it? Well, if you can't believe him yawning and being this calm, just wait till what he does next.
I'll be standing by for 46 helicopters. Oh, sorry.
What are you doing there, buddy? What's he doing with those handcuffs? It's interesting. Going through his mind? What do you think's going through his mind? Is he thinking, how much do they know? How much do they know? How much do they know? Or is he just like, I want to take a nap. Just wait, it gets interesting. Big yawn again. Look at that. Big yawn. Look at that yawn face. What? Dude, how can he be tired? Is this what he does every day and he just finds it so mundane? What is up? How can he be tired? How can he be tired? Look at that yawn face. Bunch of flies are gonna go in there. Oh my God. Here we go. Watch your mouth in there, buddy. Here we go. We're going to find out. Yep. Come on.
Got a favorite hymn?
What's that?
You got a favorite hymn?
No, I don't.
Why not?
I don't know. I've never been into them. What about you?
What about Amazing Grace? You like that one?
I'll take it.
Guys, all ready? Did you hear it? Here it comes. Here it goes. And can you imagine what this small town law enforcement officer is thinking? They just got called out of the blue to this. We'll explain how that happened. You know, they're probably just going to have just a relatively quiet night, as they usually do in their quiet, remote city in New Mexico. And nope, all of a sudden this happens. They've got all of the supporting, all of the neighboring law enforcement, everybody in this. And he's got this, well, this man in the back now singing Amazing Grace. Hold on. Oh, yes, and he knows all the verses. He's going to go right into this. Must have just been a real choir boy, can't you see it?
There's another verse, but I don't know.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I do what I can. You a Christian man?
Yeah, I am. You?
I am. In my van, there's a Bible, a Nelson Bible, and a Baptist hymnal. Are there any chances I could get those?
I'm pretty sure. Your vehicle's gonna be right up the road anyway, so let's get this one first.
Look at him flare his nostrils. That's one thing I see. I see his eyes also. Very interesting. Those nostrils are flared.
Worst thing about here?
I'll see which one?
Which Bible?
The Nelson, but there's two of them. There's a big one, and then there's a smaller red one. It's the smaller red one.
Small red one?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the Baptist hymnal.
I'll see about getting it for you.
That'd be super.
What's going on, brother? What you up to, man?
Not much.
because it's so Christian to go and grab your ex-girlfriend and choke her out 6 times and beat the living hell out of her and, you know, chain her up, plan it for a year and a half. You know, Amazing Grace, yeah, it's not going to save a, no, not a wrench like winch, wrench monster, not going to save you. Nope. I mean, what? How? How can he be so cool, calm, and collective to just yawn about this? Like, oh, it's just something I do every day. What have you done today? And then to go into that and in this long, drawn out, Amazing Grace, like you're in church. I mean, what is up with this guy?
You think you could squeeze on out this way? Put your feet down. I know it sounds dumb. He did it. Put them both down? Nope. Girls.
Wear shoes next time.
Get you in.
Is it okay to ask what's happening?
What's that?
Okay, now we're back to Sophie. Sophie's in the back of the other car. Again, do you see Sophie wearing a dress? No, I don't. And that's the thing, is that in one of the articles, I think in a couple of the articles, they said that they initially thought Sophie was female because she was wearing a dress. And this is not a dress, but anyway, Sophie likes to be called Sophie. And Sophie just said, is it okay if I ask a question? Well, you kind of already did, so here you go.
What's happening?
We gotta figure out a few things, okay?
Okay.
What do you think's happening? If you just had to guess. Don't you just want to pull the hair out of the face
I thought you
there?
were handing me the hat.
What's that?
I thought you were handing me the hat.
Oh, okay. Cold back there?
It is kinda.
Alright, lean on the ear.
Thank you. Are we going to the police station?
We are.
Good guess. Good guess.
I've never been there.
No?
You ever been to a police station or this police station?
Well, I mean, I've never been in a police station, period. I don't think.
Okay.
You don't think?
I mean, this isn't really how I wanted to go, but it is.
I know what happens when you do this kind of stuff. Ring, ring. I mean, what did you think was going to happen when you plan for a year and a half to go and kidnap this dude's ex-girlfriend? He was more than just a onlooker. In fact, Sophie went ahead and explained a little bit more of how this went. And Sophie and Jack had been, well, when investigators went to Jane's apartment, they found equipment to make movies. So they found a stun device. I don't know if I can say this on YouTube or not. So Knife. They found Jane's clothing, and they found evidence of a struggle. And they found adult film equipment, a tripod, cords, and the computer, and where the camera should be, the camera was missing. I have never seen, in all that I tried to pull up everywhere, I never saw that they pulled up the camera and were able to show a couple of things there. It never went to a full trial. We'll get into that, but it's apparent that Jack and Sophie filmed what they did. Why? one must wonder, was it so that Jack could watch it over and over and be so very proud of himself, or to keep him awake? Obviously he has a hard time keeping awake. Jack started trying to get a hold of Jane through social media, and it doesn't sound like she was eager to get in touch with him again. So Jack and Sophie made several different media profiles to start to try to make contact with Jane. Okay. So 1 week before this incident, Jack finally made contact with Jane via social media. They met for coffee. How did it go? I don't know. I don't know if they broke up on bad terms. It doesn't say. It doesn't say if he was like, hey, I'm in town. You want to meet up? Doesn't say. Nothing I can find in that little search of mine, the deep rabbit hole I went into. So basically it says that they were trying. Jack and Sophie made all these fake social media accounts and whatnot, and they were tracking her, they were following her, they were stalking her. And for 1 year and 3 months, not quite a year and a half, as I said, 1 year and 3 months. So ultimately, Sophie was the one who was emailing, trying to get Jane to lure her to meet with Jack. So when Jane and Jack met for coffee, that was it. Maybe Jane still had some thing deep inside of her with the red flags. It was like, yeah, you're not coming over to my apartment. I'll meet you for coffee and I'll drive there and I'll drive myself home. You won't be dropping me off, because they went their separate ways. So she thought. Jack followed her. She left from the coffee date. He couldn't figure out which one was her apartment. So Sophie went door to door in the apartment complex. Sophie being so helpful. Sophie went door to door to every single apartment, pretending to be from a local church, collecting donations to bring to the church. Isn't that nice? And she found out which one was Jane's apartment by doing that. So little Sophie here, just always so willing to help out. Without Sophie, Jack couldn't have gotten what he wanted accomplished in the ways that he did. So while Sophie's playing this very, very young and naive 19-year-old role pretty well, her role was pivotal. The big plan was, Jack found a hill in a remote area of Espanola, New Mexico. So they were pretty close to the destination. He'd been carving a cave into this hill with a pickaxe. And so his plan was to make a 3-bedroom cave with his pickaxe, and he would brainwash Jane into being his happily wedded wife, and together the three of them would live in the cave until all eternity. I don't know what to think of it. Sophie and Jack had been living homeless together in the van for a while. Sophie knew what she was doing was wrong, but she didn't want to disobey Jack because Jack would get upset. So you have a very impressionable Sophie Sounds like Sophie came from a very little town in the South, Phoenix City, Alabama. As somebody in a very small Southern town with gender issues, I would imagine that would have been very difficult for Sophie. So perhaps on the internet, Jack was charismatic and was able to lure Sophie. I don't know how you start the conversation of, hey, I want to go and find my ex-girlfriend and have you help me bound, gag, and hog tie her and come to a hill with me while I pickaxe a 3-bedroom cave for us to live in all eternity. Sound good? Sure, I'll pick you up at the airport. I don't know how that went down, but it did. It did. And it's just shocking. So, we'll watch Sophie just a little bit more. Sophie wants to kind of, to me, it seems like she wants to play innocent and kind of like make it sound like the other cop was not as nice as this cop and the other one was not doing this, right? Watch Sophie try to manipulate here.
Is it okay if I look around?
What's that?
Is it okay if I look around? I don't want to like make you uncomfortable.
If you look around?
Yeah. Because the other police officer told me not to do that.
We're almost there, all right?
Okay.
The other police officer probably said, don't look at Jack. That's it. Because I look back in here and I mean, obviously the cameras are not showing us what's going on exactly the same thing. But I do see when one officer has Jack and one officer has Sophie. And there is something said. And I would assume from seeing other things, you know, watching the crime shows and everything. Most likely they said, don't look at each other, don't talk to each other, something like that. So probably it was like, look ahead. So well, the other one said I couldn't look around. Is it okay if I look around? Oh, you already are.
I don't have any shoes on, so...
Okay.
Jack didn't either. Jack driving barefoot. Why are they all barefoot? Guess they're going to have those chanclas now. Trouble prison footwear. Sophie looks very young for a 19-year-old. Very, almost feral. Very unsophisticated. It's interesting. I don't think Sophie ever once considered they were going to get caught. I think Sophie, being kind of probably a loner in a small southern Alabama town with gender issues, probably didn't have a crew to hang around with, you know? Didn't feel accepted. Didn't have any confidence. So then you have Jack, who's this ultra confident. charismatic weirdo. And it seems as if Sophie played the role of the submissive, obedient servant to Jack. You don't see anything here that shows Sophie as being intimidating. And so I think that Sophie was just going along with it, but what was really in it for Sophie? If Jack's fascination was to get Jane to marry him and live in the cave, 3-bedroom cave, what was in it for Sophie? Sophie was going to be their maid? I mean, how is that something that Sophie would have thought was a good thing to go along with? I just don't see what was in it for Sophie here. I don't know why Sophie would have went along with it, and maybe it was just that it started out as, maybe Jack was just kind of, bi-curious, and they maybe met up on an adult site, and Jack was curious, and Sophie was wanting to get out of the small town. But they both were homeless, living in the van. So it's not like Jack could offer anything. I'm just going through this and going, what would make Sophie... And then you go, is Sophie not able to think for herself? Did she kind of get pushed aside? It's really interesting. Okay to talk?
What are you going to talk about?
Anything. I'm just kind of scared.
Yeah,
you
we're
should
almost
be.
there, okay? It's right up here.
What are the police going to ask me?
I'm not too sure.
When we get to the station, can I use the bathroom first?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Let's see when we get you down what's going to happen.
Okay, thank you. I don't mean to bug you or whatever. I'm just frightened.
You should be.
I shouldn't be there. You guys are the police. Will I be unhandcuffed when I get to the station?
Most likely not.
Will I be unhandcuffed when I get to the station? Well, I don't know. You sat idly by and co-signed for everything and found Jane in the right apartment and sat there where Jane was handcuffed, shackled, chained. How many chains around her neck? And you're complaining about one set of handcuffs, wanting to know when they're going to come off? Come on.
You lock my door. I'll be right back to get you, okay?
Okay. Hey, excuse me. Could you get me some shoes?
Where are they
Hey,
going
you
to
shackled? I got a shackle in still.
Hey,
You shackled? I got a
excuse me.
shackle in still. I gotta try to
Let's
find
go,
them.
Zam.
Can you get me some shoes before you come get me?
What's that?
Could you get me some, like, footwear?
I don't think we have footwear here.
Oh, okay.
They've obviously both been barefoot wherever they are because Jack was barefoot too. What do they expect them to come out with? A pair of Lubus and be like, is this acceptable for you? Kind of unbelievable.
Will you guys give me my clothes tomorrow?
I can't tell if she said, will you give me my clothes tomorrow or my phone tomorrow? It's very interesting. And you look, and Sophie is very childlike. For a 19-year-old, looking, the hair in the face, it seems like, Sophie likes to kind of be invisible and not seen. I guess that, maybe that's where Jack really saw the subservient ways. I don't know. It's baffling.
Okay. Do you want me to face this way?
No, put your feet towards me.
Okay. Oh, your feet cupping me?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll pull these. Okay. I don't know how this works. I'll just listen to what you tell me. Thank you for not making them too tightly together, officer.
Isn't that interesting? Trying to already play the victim, kind of trying to be like, let's buddy up because the other officer is bad. Like the other officer put it too tight. It's, like a narcissist does a triangulation, of course, where they get the two against one. And it seems like Sophie would be trying that, but I don't see the, really any other way of Sophie being a narcissist in any way. Maybe just manipulative, trying to get on this officer's good side, trying to find the kindness in them. I don't know. Interesting.
I'm gonna get you down on that side, okay?
Okay. Can you help me out?
Hold on.
Well, I don't think I need the help, but
Here we go. Ooh, it's hard to walk like that.
And that's that. I'm going to go back just a little bit. There we go. Goes right to the beginning again.
Clear on her name and date of birth. Nevada.
So, the rest of the story is that there were some fancy, fast, precise, impressive police work. Not only was Sky the neighbor the hero and Jane the absolute badass of a hero, but the detectives, listen to what they did. So, Number one, none of this would have even been known had the neighbor not called. This one neighbor called, saw this. Only way they knew where Jane's apartment was because Sophie went around door to door looking in everybody's apartment, saying from a church, getting donations. In today's world, don't open the door to strangers. You don't know what they're doing. And this is a case in point for that. Because they had a mission. They were looking for something, and often this is the way that it is when houses are cased, etc., etc. In today's world, if somebody wants to sell you something, donations needed, whatever, send an email. Don't open the door to strangers. Just don't do it. So Sky calls in this call. Says, hey, I think my neighbor's in trouble. She's bound, gagged, is fighting this man, and they left in a van and with his picture got the partial Texas plate. Okay. Well, Sky didn't know who Jane was. Sky just described, this lady coming out, blah, 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 blah. So perhaps with that description, they found out what apartment, whatever. Because it doesn't sound like anybody in the apartment complex knew much about Jane, because when they got into Jane's apartment, as I said, they found the other things. They found only a partial emergency contact, only a last name. Thank goodness it wasn't just the first name, but there was a last name for an emergency contact. So, Las Vegas Metro PD Detective Miller called this emergency contact, found only by a last name, calls and says, hey, you're listed as an emergency contact for this person who lives in these apartments here. Her phone, her purse, and I can't remember what else was there, but it, so her identification was in there. So they probably would have been like, hey, do you know Jane? Do you know anybody who would match the description of a 30 to 40-year-old male, dirty blonde hair, blah, blah, blah. Well, this emergency contact that they found by only the last name said, yeah, that's her ex-boyfriend, Jack Wolf. Merck Ebar. That's Jack, her ex-boyfriend. So that emergency contact was able to say, that's Jack Miller. So then they were able to find Jack Miller's cell phone. It took them about 12 hours because it wasn't very much time before Jane was rescued and where they made that ping, because they finally got a ping. They got Jack's phone from the van that they had the partial plate to ping. And they got that ping, and it was outside of Santa Fe, New Mexico, heading north. And that's all they had. So Las Vegas Metro PD Detective Miller calls the Santa Fe, New Mexico 911 dispatch and says, hey, we've got an issue. We've got, somebody who we believe may be kidnapped in a vehicle, heading north in Santa Fe on Highway 84. And then they scrambled together to figure this out and put out a bolo for this white van. And obviously, as we come into the picture and we start seeing, where we're here, where we start here, that's where we're starting, because these guys, like I say, they're in a small town. They got that ping out of Santa Fe going north. And this had went across 3 states. So this started, 12 hours prior in Las Vegas, and now they went to the Espanola Police Department. So I don't know how far Espanola is to Santa Fe or San Pedro. But this Shell station right here, the Shell station is called the San Pedro Shell gas station. And it shows that they're on US Highway 84. So I don't know if it's that way or that way. It must be this way. So they got that ping and they scramble together and they just get local they got local law enforcement, state police, and whatever. And they're like, we're going to be looking for a white van with Texas plates. We believe that somebody has been kidnapped in there. And from what I can see, the neighbor did not describe Sophie at all, just described Jack. So as we were hearing, and they said, there's a passenger, they must have thought, well, that's the one who was kidnapped. It doesn't sound like they really had any insight that Jack had an accomplice. And it makes you wonder, did Sophie go and get the drive, get everything ready in the van so that as soon as Jack got her in the van, Sophie starts driving so that he can get Jane secured and they start heading out of town? Because how come Sophie wasn't identified? And they right away when they saw the passenger, they assumed, obviously, they were really surprised when they said there was a passenger, it seemed like. So Jack and Sophie get booked at the Espanola Police Department, and they were held with the initial charges, kidnapping, conspiracy, etc., etc. And that lasted, I think, it looks like 3 days before the federal prosecutors took over. Because it went across 3 state lines, the FBI became involved as it crossed the state line that first night. So, like I said, this massive amount of incredible police work occurring in less than 12 hours. 12 hours and less. So from this horrible nightmare starting to where this culminated, in under 12 hours, just amazing. This is what humanity is supposed to be about. That neighbor did the right thing. The neighbor looked out and did everything right, took the information, called to get help. And the investigators did everything they can. The Las Vegas Metro Police Department sees things that you could never imagine on every day in Vegas. It's just the wild, wild west. And they're smart. They're so smart. And they pulled this off. They saved her. She's alive. So when the federal prosecutors took over, they had New Mexico drop the charges. And when they dropped the charges, then they were released to the U.S. Marshals. And from the Marshals, then it looks like it went to the Assistant U.S. Attorney's Office. And it looks like it was prosecuted by Catherine Newman and Susan Cushman. And the way it ended is, I think it said, well, Jack's in there for life. Jack is gone. Jack is in there with no possibility of parole. He's LWOP'd, life without parole. Jack is behind bars, and I'm sure that he has all the ladies writing to him so that he can serenade them with that weird, creepy, Amazing Grace song. Because I was looking at those comments, or in the comment threads, and a lot of ladies think that he's a good-looking guy, so he may be, but he's a monster. Now, like I say, I think then it came that Sophie got 63 months, I think. Is it 5 years? So Sophie may be out. I mean, it's been 6 years. So imagine, I can't imagine how Sophie fared in prison, being as childlike and naive as she seems to be. When I was looking through everything and trying to find the facts, it said that Sophie had a previous charge of kidnapping and conspiracy. So I'm like, no. You guys are looking at in New Mexico when the charges were dropped. You're not doing that. So, like I say, it's there's not like one good story I can find that really put this together. So I'm doing the best I can to kind of put this together in pieces. And feel free to do your own research and check it out. And I hope that, like I said, I hope that Jane is having an amazing life. I hope that she's had good trauma counseling and she knows that that monster is behind bars and will never see the light of day. And he can sing his creepy songs behind bars, and that's that. Sophie probably has a lot of guilt to deal with. I hope that Sophie got help, and I hope that Sophie has chosen a better way to live life and not go along with what people say. As like I say, it couldn't have been done without Sophie. It really took her helping, so she was, very much a part of it. So the prison sentence of, like I said, I think it was 63 months. 63 months. It's appropriate. It at the very least. And some of the newspapers have it mixed up in saying that Jack got 63 months. It says the kidnapper got 63 months. But no, Jack, sorry, my notes are all over the place because there's so many different things. Jack William Morgan is in prison for life in prison without the possibility of parole. Samuel Lee Brown, aka Sophie, got 63 months in prison plus 5 years of probation. There we go. That's where that is. So there's that. I hope that this filled in some of the blanks if you guys were wondering just as much, or if this is your first time to see it. Run through it straight and kind of have that whole backstory in there, and go away with the knowledge of being a good witness. Don't ever try to play the hero and get in the middle of a situation where a desperate person is making desperate choices. Be the hero, be like Sky, and fight like Jane. And if you're an investigator and you're listening to this, you guys are amazing. You're absolute angels on earth. And the amount of brain work and skill that was executed to make everything come together and everybody to come out of this safe was just amazing. So thank you all, Men in Blue, for everything that you do every day. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe. I'd love to have you around. And on that note, I will say goodbye and wish you a good night. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate your time.